Okay, let's look at the board here. Top games. Miami, Philadelphia. It was not what we thought it might be. It surely was not what Miami did a couple of weeks ago when they played in Buffalo. That being said, now there's a bigger question as it relates to the Miami Dolphins. I mean, they lead the world in offense plus 400 yards. Are they Beach Boys? Because in the two big games, they got smoked in Buffalo,
Right.
and they got pounded in Philadelphia. Those are the two games they've lost. Their wins have come against teams with a combined record of 8-25. So do we really know, is Miami tough enough to be a really great football team, or are they just putting up big stats in yards and points when they're playing teams that are a collective 8-25?
Yeah, that's a fair question here because the Miami it's like, all offense, their defense wasn't able to hold Jalen Hurts and the Eagles. So yeah, it does make you wonder. But boy, yeah, that game, I mean, just seeing the two guys that were on Alabama together and how they were not necessarily there wasn't friction there when they were at Alabama together because Hurts was rooting for Tua on some of those I see on the old replays. But now they're going against each other. It was a neat storyline. But the Eagles, man, they're loaded. And I heard today they made a trade for like some defensive back too.
Now, Kevin Byard came from the Tennessee Titans. He was an impending free agent. And their front office, I will tell you, Howie Roseman, unbelievable player personnel guy. So you got Philadelphia pasting Miami. I don't know if I would say that I was shocked at the outcome, but the Lions obviously walked into an ambush in Baltimore. And Detroit had been playing really well, and they were playing really physical. And when they got done, Lamar Jackson just trampled them. 387 yards passing, 56 yards rushing. That Ravens defense, 2 picks, 5 quarterback sacks. Jared Goff was under siege all day long. So Detroit's had a nice jump start to the season, considering what they've been for the last decade or so. But boy, did they get pounded by the Baltimore Ravens. I was a little stunned. It was 30-6. Detroit was not more competitive, but they got jumped in the alley that is Baltimore.
Yeah, isn't it weird too how even the Ravens, some weekends they're great and other weekends not so good.
Mhm.
So it's just so kind of sporadic. But man, I just love the Lions story. I mean, all that misery for so long, forever. And now they've got a great head coach. They got a team that's behind them. They got Jared Goff, who looks terrific. But yeah, then it's like any given Sunday, right? So like they get ambushed, as you said. So, are we ever going to see an undefeated team like the 72 Miami Dolphins? I don't think it's ever going to happen again.
There's some good teams in the league, but no, this year we definitely will not.
Mhm.
Okay, let's go to the third game. Bears Raiders. Do you know where Shepherd State, West Virginia is?
No.
They are a Division II school. This is a fascinating story. First of all, the Bears with a Division II quarterback beat the Raiders, really beat them up. The Bears, very little talent. It's obvious the Raiders have got even less talent. So the Bears and their Division II quarterback from Shepherd State, West Virginia, a year ago this weekend, the kid threw 5 touchdown passes. There were 2,400 fans in the stands at Shepherd State. They beat Concord State of West Virginia, Division II school. This kid, in his first start, throws for 162. Taylor Bagent in Chicago beats the Raiders. And they beat him with a Division II quarterback and a street free agent, Donta Foreman, who's been with 5 different NFL clubs. And the Raiders, they started the old dog, Brian Hoyer. Then they went to the rookie from Purdue, Aiden O'Connell, because there is no Jimmy G. They couldn't get the ball to Devontae Adams. And this Josh Jacobs, $13 million contract, the fact he held out, he hasn't earned a penny of his contract, and we're 5 or 6 weeks into the season. And I'll tell you what, people are starting to bark in Las Vegas when they step away from the slot machines, barking about Josh McDaniels. Is this guy in over his head as a head coach? Because he's 9-15 with the Raiders, and he was 11-17 in Denver. So the guy is 20-32 and not doing a real good job. And the Raiders look like this is going to be a terrible season and we're not even to the halfway point, and they're just not competitive at all. So you tell me, Josh McDaniels on the same firing line as Brandon
Oh,
Staley?
for sure. I mean, for sure. I mean, you see that guy walking up and down the sideline. He looks like a man that is not in control of his own fate. He looks like he's like a deer in the headlights sometimes. He's not sure what's going on. So, yeah, they're going to have to make a move there. But I'm wondering, go back to Chicago. Do you think there's going to be a quarterback controversy? Should Justin Fields be nervous about his job?
No, because I think he's a dynamic Division One quarterback who's put up some really big numbers. Now he's got a dislocated thumb, so that's probably at least a 4-week window. This young quarterback, we'll just see if Bajent can be productive and manage the game. By the way, Da Bears play Da Bolts at SoFi next weekend, or actually next Monday night. There'll be 11 people will watch that game. So we'll see how Bajent does against the Chargers in the Monday Night Football game. But no, Fields is the guy because he was a high pick, and they're trying to make him a more complete quarterback, and he's a phenomenal athlete. The other game, the Rams got pasted by Pittsburgh. Now, a week ago, I had a bye week in my house. Steelers had a bye week. My wife had a bye week. She's from West Virginia. She was not yelling at the TV watching the Steeler game. So anyhow, Pittsburgh comes back, and they beat the Rams at SoFi on Sunday. And they did it in typical conventional Pittsburgh way. T.J. Watt, interception, touchdown. Pittsburgh, run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Boring football. 3 long scoring drives second half. 3 different guys score on the ground. They beat the Rams. Rams are upset. Their veteran kicker, Brett Maher, who they got from the Dallas Cowboys, misses 2 field goals, misses a point after. He might be doing this podcast next week because they might be buying his contract out. Sean McVay is really unhappy. He was really unhappy with the atmosphere at SoFi. You think there are a few people wearing black and gold at SoFi Stadium on Sunday?
Sure.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
So anyhow, the Rams lost one that most everybody thought they would win. And by the way, when you look at the standings in the NFL tomorrow in the paper, make sure the cup of coffee is away from the table. I don't want you doing this and having the coffee spill all over your nice white shirt and striped tie, because Pittsburgh's in first place. And as bad as they played, and as bad as the language that came out of my wife's mouth the first couple of weeks, they're 4-2. What a job by Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's a Jekyll and Hyde league, right? Isn't it? One week the Steelers looked horrible, and now suddenly they're beating the Rams, and the Rams we thought were going to be terrible to start the year, and they surprised us and we're playing better than expectation, and then they go back in the tank again. But there are a lot of Steeler fans in SoCal. So I remember when the Chargers played at in Carson at that soccer stadium, and they played the Steelers. It was like a road game for the Chargers. It was like 80% Steeler fans in that little soccer stadium.
The last couple of years when the Steelers played at SoFi, color of the day, black and gold.
Unbelievable. So it's great for Kroenke. He's making money, getting people in the stands, but they're all rooting for the other team.
Raider Nation, you're joining us on this podcast. Raider Nation, join us in Fans Forum. Just muscled your way in, sucker punch somebody, get into the chat room, ask a question, make a statement. Josh McDaniels in danger of failing and getting fired as the coach of the Raiders.